back.
The people that we have Michael Mandu, who's one of our very
Old.
one of our oldest teachers as a special guest this evening and in the main shrine room. So yeah, so newcomers or if you need a refresher to the right it's Mandu, regulars in the main shrine room with Michael Mandu, and then we'll have a tea break in the middle at some point, and we will end by 9:30. Okay, so if you'd like to move towards whichever room is yours, and if you could just turn your phone off.
So if you want to grab cushions and mats ready for the meditation, and then we'll start. We're lying down. So grab what thing that you need.
Hello, I just finished with the podcast last week, and it's amazing. I really loved it. I haven't ever been here, but I did a winter retreat last year, and I went to another retreat in Syria the weekend ago, and now I saw you in India. It's fabulous.
That's good. Thank you very much. Hello, nice to see you again. You alright? So grab the cushions and mats that you need for meditation, and then in a minute we're going to lie down, which is everyone's favourite activity, with our head facing west, which is that way. Feet east. Not for religious reasons. So that might mean that you need to move around the room so that everyone can get in. And you want a cushion for your head, and you want if you can, have your knees up.
Do you want to pass the mats back?
Yeah,
Pass them along. Pass them
Do it
along.
along.
That'd be
This
great.
is like a kind of cooperation game.
That's it. First test of the evening. There we go. Stay up. There you go.
So once you're lying down with a cushion, see if you can maybe just so that the cushion's on the bony part of your head, not your neck, so that your neck can drop back into alignment with the spine. And see if you can lie straight. I don't mean that in a heterosexual sense. I simply mean not twisted. There's lots of space, so there'll be space at the front here. There's weirdly always space at the front. Like a teacher thing. Okay, welcome. If you want to get yourself a cushions and mats. And we're going to start with lying down. Yeah, some of you got blankets, so that's good. You want to be warm. So as soon as you've got yourself a place, and you can, if there's you can put a line of the shrine up here, we can worship you, as I was saying. My joke last time was that you'd be lying near to strangers, but we've all been there. Well, I have, but it's a long time ago. Okay, so space at the front here if you want to. So you should be able to put your hand around and touch the back of your neck so that the cushion is not on your neck. Yeah? And that helps your head. It's fine. You probably just need one cushion. A little creaky neck will be okay. So when you're ready, close your eyes. So as soon as you close your eyes, well, you can't. One of the things that we start to learn here is you can't make yourself relax. What you can do is just bring your attention into, especially the back of your body, and that will help you relax. But you can't sort of make yourself relax. And I'm going to lead us through a relaxation. And possibly you might fall asleep, and that's probably because that's what you need to do. If you snore, snoring very loudly, I might need to talk to you. Okay, so the first thing, see if you can really notice the weight of your head on the cushions. Your head is much heavier than you tend to think. So you can feel the pressure of your head resting down on the cushion. And you can help your head rest on the cushions by softening your eyes. You don't need to frown anymore or screw up your eyes. And you can help your head relax by softening your jaw and your mouth. So your head is heavy on the cushion. Your eyes are soft. Your mouth is soft. And you can even imagine, and this is something you imagine, not something you try and do, but you can even imagine your head just kind of floating away from your body, as if your arc of the neck just flattened slightly. And that's what would happen if you relax. All of your weight would be taken by, the weight of your head would be taken by the cushion. And your neck would lengthen quite naturally. So your head is heavy, and it's a relief to just be lying here. You're not looking into a screen, thank heavens. You can just feel the weight of our head on the cushion. And then see if you can feel your shoulders on the floor. And where your shoulders touch the floor. And you can just imagine your shoulders softening, spreading out on the floor. The shoulders falling back to the ground, spreading out from each other. broadening out on the ground, becoming warm and soft. And then as you lie there, just noticing the back, the whole extent of your back on the floor. It's almost as if the floor is coming up a little bit to press on your back. So you can really imagine the back letting go. So your head is heavy, your back is heavy and warm and ground, like your back is spreading out on the ground. And you can help your back soften and become warmer and heavier by softening your belly. And as you soften your belly, the lower back spreads out on the ground. And once again, you can help your back soften by really feeling the weight of your arms. Let your arms be really heavy. So your head is heavy, your back is heavy on the ground. Your arms are heavy. And you can feel the weight of your legs. If you've got your knees up, dropping down through the hips and through the pelvis and through the soles of your feet. Or just through the whole of the legs as you're lying down. So as you lay here, you feel your whole system is calming down. Quieting down. So as you lie down, you just tell us what we're going to do tonight. I want to explore meditation in a bit more detail and go back in a way to the beginning of things. And we're going to, after this, we're going to go straight into meditation, and I want to teach a little bit of something, then we'll do some more meditation. And after the tea break, I want to teach a bit more, and then we'll do some more. So a lot of people, well not a lot, some people sneak out of the tea break. Don't do that. I know what you're doing. We all want to watch Netflix. But what you find is that you need this relaxation now, and you need that meditation and a cup of tea before you have a better chance to get into meditation more deeply later on. And you know that's in your own interest, really. And it'll be more rewarding than Ted Lasso, which is what I've been watching. It is not on there. Anyway, when you're ready, rolling over towards the window, away from the shrine. See if you can do that without raising your head. And then just lie on your side for a minute. And then, when you're ready, there's really no rush. Well, I don't ask you to set yourself up for meditation. But as you move, see if you can stay aware of your body as you move. So it's like the meditation starts as you even start to set up. So you're not trying to get to the end of the movement. You're trying to be aware of your body and its movements as you set up. You get cushions, you get a blanket, whatever you need. Set yourself up so you can sit completely still. Okay, so when you're ready, and there's no rush. So you're setting yourself up for meditation. You want to make sure your hands are supported. If you feel a bit uncomfortable before, you might want to get another mat. Sometimes two mats is good. You have a super abundance of mats and cushions and so on. And as soon as you've got hands set up, and if again, there's no rush to get closing your eyes. We're not changing mode, we're not sort of now doing this really technical thing called meditation. We're just kind of relaxing, but sitting up. So closing your eyes and just tuning into the weight of your body on the ground. So feeling your weight really resting on the cushions or the mat and the chair, really feeling how the cushions support your body, how the chair supports your body, how the floor supports you. And again, softening your face. So you don't need to screw up your eyes or furrow your brow. Soften your jaw. Again, see if you can bring your attention into your shoulders. And we're very often kind of gripping or hunching our shoulders. And we don't even really notice that we're doing it. So see if you can bring your attention into your shoulders. And you're trying to get this sense of what you're habitually doing in your shoulders. They're not usually just relaxed. And you can't make your shoulders relax, but you can imagine them relaxing. So you could just imagine them dropping down your back, your shoulders dropping away from your ears. The muscles of your shoulders smoothing out, soothing out. And then bring your attention into your belly. We're often gripping in the belly, pulling the belly in and up. We don't notice that we're doing that, but it affects our mind all the time. So see if you can soften your belly. And as you do that, more and more of your weight will drop down through the cushions. So really noticing how the chair or the cushions support your weight. And you can imagine that weight dropping down into the ground beneath you. And just tuning into your breath. You can feel the weight of your body. You can feel the warmth of your body. And then you can just tune into your body breathing. And letting the breath in the body calm the body, soothe the body. See for the next few minutes if you can stay with your experience of the breath. Your mind goes away, just come back to the weight of your body. Come back to the support of the cushions of the chair. And just tune into your breath again. Coming back to the support of the ground, the support of the cushions or the chair. Ready, opening your eyes, coming out to the meditation. Okay, so just sit comfortably. Okay, so I'll say a little bit now, and then, as I said, I'll say something more after the tea break. Don't carry on in your meditation posture. You need to save your knees for later. So the main thing I want to do this evening is kind of go all the way back to basics. One of the really essential things about Buddhist meditation and about Buddhism generally is there are no higher teachings, there's just deeper understandings. Yeah, it's not like you're learning kind of newcomery things now, and then later you'll get to learn fancier and fancier things that are much stronger. According to the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha was watching his breath when he gained enlightenment. That's the practice he was doing, that's the tradition at least. Yeah. So there's no way we kind of think of watching the breath as a newcomer's meditation. If you go deeply enough into your experience, you will eventually, according to Buddhist tradition, discover enlightenment. Yeah? You don't need some fancy bit of metaphysics. You just need to practice very intensely, yeah, in the right kind of way. So what I want to do, though, is really bring us right the way back to first principles, yeah, because that's usually where people go wrong. And all you need to do really is deepen your understanding of first principles. And that first, as it in my mind, first principle, is this moment, this key moment, when you notice in the meditation that you're not meditating. Yeah? When we say I was saying on a retreat I was just leading, we got 7 o'clock meditation, double meditation, 10 o'clock meditation, 4 o'clock sometimes meditation. What really we should say is 7 o'clock, mostly distracted. 10 o'clock, even more distracted than I was at 7. 4 o'clock, falling asleep. Yeah? If we were to describe what's mostly happening, most of us, most of the time, are not meditating in any way we can talk about. Our mind has gone off. Yeah? We're thinking about things. We're planning, we're remembering, we're fantasizing, we're worrying, those sort of things. Yeah? The Buddhist word for this is prapuncture. And prapuncture means mental proliferation. Yeah? Your mind just proliferates. This reminds you of that. You start thinking about something in the future, which reminds you of something in the past, which reminds you of a film you want to see, which reminds you of a film you did see, which reminds me of who you went to that film with, which reminds me of the meal I had 20 years previously with this woman that I thought was wonderful. And your mind just grazes like that. It's called prapuncture, yeah, mental proliferation. And it's always driven highly associative. It's not that you're thinking. Sometimes people say it's thinking, but you're not thinking. Thinking is what philosophers do. It's just driven, associative, highly associative, distracted thought. Yeah, and it feels kind of driven. It's like EastEnders. A friend of mine really likes EastEnders. Heaven only knows why. But you only have to watch a tiny bit of EastEnders, and before you know it, you want to know what happens next. And if they're having an affair, you know what happens next. They will be found out. There's never been an affair on EastEnders that isn't found out. But you're somehow stuck in the narrative. Yeah. So that's a bit like propuncture. You just get stuck in wanting to carry on in that sort of wool-gathering, kind of grazing kind of way. Yeah. So really, we should have put on programs 7 a.m. mostly propuncture. 10 a.m., mostly propuncture. Yeah? That's really what happens. So the key is not whether is that moment when you notice that you're in propuncture, to use that term, in associative, driven thought, so-called thought. I think thought is too dignified. Fantasizing, remembering, feeling, whatever. Yeah, and remember, you don't do it. It's not that you sit there and think, this is boring, what should I think about? Not usually anyway. It's usually that you sat down to meditate, you came along, you've got here through the tube, you sit down thinking, here's my chance to meditate, and then you're just rehashing the contents of your day, starting to worry about tomorrow. You didn't mean to do that. In fact, you meant to do something else called meditation. Yeah? And it's not that people say you get distracted. That's not really correct, is it? It's not that you get distracted. At one moment you're not distracted. The next moment you wake up into distraction, don't you? You kind of come round and think, what am I thinking about? What am I? You come round into a story that you're telling, into propuncture. You don't sort of go off by your own will. Yeah? You just wake up into thought. That I'm thinking about this, I'm worrying about that, I'm fantasizing about that. So the first thing to say about that, and it makes it clear because you don't do it, you suddenly come round into it, don't you? Do nod if you agree. Okay? You don't actually do it. You don't decide to get distracted. You don't start thinking, what should I think about? You were watching the breath or feeling the body, and then you're not. You're in the middle of a story. So the important thing to first of all to say about that, and there's lots actually to say about that, is that it's not your fault. You didn't mean to do that. So whether you come round and you'll find that you're having a sexual fantasy, or you come round and you find you're highly critical of yourself or somebody else, or you come round and you're thinking about absolute nonsense, it's not that your fault that you're doing that. It's just that your mind just likes to proliferate in that way. Yeah? That's the good news. It's not your fault. The more difficult news is it is your responsibility. Yeah? You have a mind. You didn't ask for one. You didn't design it. You didn't decide what kind of mind you would like. What you have decided is to work on your mind, and that's an absolutely key decision in your life. People who don't decide to do that are in trouble. I mean, even when you do decide to work on your mind, you'll get in trouble with your mind. But if you don't decide to work on it, there's a whole industry out there trying to capture your mind, yeah? And they will if you don't work on it yourself. So it's not your fault that your mind's gone off, because you didn't do that. You didn't decide to do that. In fact, you decided to do something else, something really spiritual. You were going to be really chilled out and really blissed out. That's what you decided to do. And weirdly, what you did is you went through all the criticisms you feel about someone that you've gone through 50 times already. Yeah. So the first thing to notice is when your mind goes off, it's not your fault. Yeah. It's just the mind. It's just this propuncture kind of blows through the mind. It's more like you're haunted, and you come round into a haunting. Yeah. And in the moment that you come round to that sense of being haunted, of being possessed by propuncture, proliferative thought, driven associated thought, in that moment, you are actually meditating. Yeah? In that moment. Sometimes only in that moment. But that is the moment when you're meditating, is when you think, oops, or ooh, I'm not, It's that moment when you think, hang on. In that very moment, that's you, you're now meditating, yeah? And that's a crucial moment in your life. Doesn't seem like it, but it's absolutely crucial that you notice that you've come round into thought. Whatever that thought is, it's not your fault that you're thinking that. There's all sorts of reasons for it. It's partly to do with karma and so forth. It's all to do with, habitual tendencies. As soon as you notice that, in that moment of noticing, you are actually meditating. So what happens is, when people teach here at the centre, what they tend to say, and I've said this myself, is when you notice your mind's gone off, bring yourself back into the meditation. Yeah? And that's just a manner of speaking. As soon as you've noticed you've gone off, you are now meditating. There isn't something to bring yourself back into. You don't think, I'm not meditating, I better meditate. It's in that moment that you realise you're not meditating. And often enough we skate over this moment and don't realise it, and I'll perhaps say more about that in the second half. But in that moment of noticing you're not meditating, you are now meditating. In fact, that moment, if you could catch it, is extremely valuable and sort of pregnant with value. It's just we easily miss it. Yeah? For instance, we think, oops, I better start meditating again. And that saying to yourself, I better start meditating again, is more not meditating. Yeah? In the moment that you notice you're away, you're back, aren't you? As soon as you notice you're away and thinking about something, you're not away anymore, you're here. All you need to do, and in the second half I'll say more about all you need to do, because it sounds easier than it is when you notice that your mind's gone, see if you can catch that moment, except for that sounds a bit grabby, but see if you can just sort of, how I've been talking about it is like, let that experience of noticing you're away, let that experience kind of fatten. Let your sense of being back thicken and deepen. You become more collected. Now the main way you do that is simply by noticing you've gone away and enjoying that you're not away now. Yeah? Rather than doing something else, which I'll talk about in the second half. But just enjoying that you're not away now. Here you are. So you don't need to start meditating again. You are now meditating. You're right. In fact, sometimes that moment can be actually much deeper than you expect. Because we have this idea that if I'm going to get into something deeper, it's like shallow, less shallow, a little bit deeper, very deep. Actually, you can go from very shallow to very deep. If you can just notice your mind's gone off, and sort of open up into that moment when you notice that, and let it sort of thicken. It's like you just sort of wait in that moment. And for this first half, let's not even try and do anything more. All I want you to do is you notice your mind's gone off. That noticing is you in meditation now. You're now in that meditation. You weren't a second ago. Now you are. So all you need to do is wait in that moment. Kind of try and enjoy that moment. Let that moment kind of thicken and become richer. Yeah. And see if you can stay there as long as you can. And probably suddenly you'll wake up again in thought again, and you just do that again. Okay. So let's do that, and then we'll do a bit more. I'll say more about the issues of that after tea, and we'll do more meditation after tea as well. And what I'm going to do is I'll lead us into it's quite a short meditation, and I'll read a poem at the end. I thought I'd read you a winter poem, and see if you can, in the stillness of the meditation, just sit completely still and let it sort of drop into you. See whether it has an effect on you. It might do, it might not. Okay, so once again, closing your eyes. And once again, just start really simply by noticing the weight of your body on the cushions or the chair. See if you can imagine the weight of your body dropping down through the ground. So you can't make yourself relax. But if you just imagine your weight dropping down through the floor, deep into the ground beneath you, that will actually start to relax you. Softening your face, softening your shoulders, softening your belly. And just sit in the body sensations. Just sitting completely still. And just when the mind goes off, as soon as you notice the mind's gone off, you're already meditating. Just see if you can settle into that moment more. Thicken that moment. notice your mind's gone off. You're already back. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Okay, so let's go next. We'll have a cup of tea, and then after tea I want to say a bit more about this moment, and then we'll do more meditation. So yeah, just sit comfortably. I'll talk for a bit now. Jai, did you want to close the door? And then we'll meditate for a bit longer, I think, later on. So. Oh, okay. Is it cold in here? Is it? Jai, did you want to turn? Oh, yes, Liam can turn it on. If you can get warm. Some more. Come in. Don't be shy. So yeah, I want to keep on focusing on this key moment where you notice that you're not meditating. Yeah? In that moment you notice you're not meditating, you are now meditating. You don't need to bring yourself back to the meditation. You don't need to start again, which is what we often say. You in that very moment that you notice, you are now meditating. Now, one of the reasons we miss that moment, there's lots of reasons why we do, but one of the reasons we miss that moment is that we get into, oh my God, how long have I been distracted? I've been so distracted. I can't even do this. I was aware. What was I thinking about? What am I thinking about that? You get into more distraction about your distraction. I say you, I mean me as well. It's very easy to notice that you're away, and it sort of sparks off, often enough at a not very conscious level. And remember, perhaps I'll say something about this in a minute, but remember, much of what's happening in meditation is not happening at the level of your consciousness. It happens just below your consciousness often. So very often you come back and you have a kind of, I don't like the language of semi-conscious, but a sort of slightly underneath your kind of direct consciousness is you have this sense of problematizing that. I shouldn't have been away. How long was I away? I want to do this meditation thing, but I was distracted again. I'm always distracted. My mind's so noisy. And it's not that you literally say those in your head usually, but there's often a kind of habitualized problematizing of that. That, in a way, that's why I think it would be better if we put on the program mostly prapuncture. Because then at least you're prepared, that's what's going to mostly happen probably, unless you're very absorbed. So try to notice any instinct when you notice that you've gone away. See if you can also notice, is there an instinct to get into thinking about why you went away, how long you went away for, how this meditation is going, how you decided to stay after the tea break, because you might have said it would be better and it's not. Whatever it is, I know what you're doing. See if you can drop beneath that. So that's one thing to say, is that usually we don't notice that moment where we notice we've been away, because we fill that gap with, I shouldn't have been away, I've done it again, my mind's gone off, I can't do this, I don't know why I ever started, I should have just stayed at home and watched Netflix. Whatever it is that you happen to do. The other thing that can happen that covers that moment is that what you're distracted by is very strong. It's very compelling, yeah? whether it's, as I said, I don't know why I keep on going about sexual fantasy, I don't get much of that, but anyway, whether it's sexual fantasy, I'm getting too old, or whether it's, I don't know, moaning and feeling sorry for yourself, whatever it is, the narratives we tell ourselves are very compelling. And quite often you notice, oh gosh, I'm, especially either very negative narratives in the sense of feeling critical, angry, frustrated, which is very, very compelling, or very wanting, craving, needing narratives, which are also very compelling. Yeah. And what happens is you notice you're in them, and you barely get a moment, don't you, before you're in them again. You think, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm doing that arguing in my mind again. But you hardly finish that sentence before you're arguing in your mind again. Yeah, it's like lighting a match in the wind, isn't it? You think mindfulness, meditation. You light the match in meditation, immediately gets blown out. You light it on, immediately gets blown out, and then you think it's pointless. Throw it, go off and go to the pub. So, and that can feel quite futile, that you're lighting this match and it gets blown out immediately. And it kind of then proves that, I probably can't do this, my mind's too busy, some kind of rationale for why that's not going to work now. So the important thing to do there, at least one of the ways of talking about that space, is that what the issue is there is you're getting caught up in a narrative, yeah? Now narratives, I hate this person, I can't stand my job, I wish I didn't do that yesterday, things always go wrong, whatever it is. Narratives are, it's a narrative that's taking you away, but the narratives are at the top of a whole sense of feeling in the body. What's really distracting you, so to speak, to use that language of distraction, is the state of mind you're in, which is carried on with a narrative, If you didn't have a narrative about it, feeling, even strong feeling, even very powerful, unpleasant feeling would come and go very quickly. You just feel something, feel really irritated, but you haven't got a narrative to carry it on. Usually what happens is you feel really irritated, and then that reminds you of all the other things you feel irritated about as well, which reminds you of why you proliferate along those lines. Do you see what I mean? So then that covers over that moment of noticing, because the moment of noticing is very brief, and you're back into that very powerful narrative. And narratives, especially if you're there's a lot on your mind just now, they like cascade, don't they? It's like you feel kind of helpless in them. They feel like they're cascading through you, and you just can't stop yourself thinking about it. It's probably one of the reasons why you came to learn to meditate in the first place, is because of the noise of your mind and the sense of helplessness in relationship to the noise of your mind. Certainly that's one of the reasons I came here. That I could not, it was so loud and noisy and unhappy, and I could not stop it. In fact, when I said to myself, please stop thinking like this, it would make it worse. Yeah. So all my so-called strategies just made my mind worse. Now, if you learn meditation unhelpfully, you can still make it worse, folks. The thing we have to do is learn very carefully and practice very diligently. So what you're trying to do, first of all, is establish this great discipline of that you notice your mind's gone off. You try to, as I said, thicken that moment. You try to just wait in that new sense of being back and try and quite consciously enjoy it more. Enjoy the weight of your body, enjoy the warmth of your body, enjoy being back in your life, yeah? Not thinking about something else, yeah? You try to thicken it, you try to fatten the moment of awareness, yeah? And if then you're very compelled to think about things, and sometimes, often enough, you can be, if there's something particularly that's bugging you just now, see if you can really say, yeah, no, that's the story I'm telling myself about it. How does it feel in my body? How does it feel in my experience? And if it's a very driven narrative, it will feel very unpleasant, physically unpleasant. One of the reasons we get stuck in narrative is because the physical sensations are so unpleasant. So then you need to drop down into the physical sensations, and that's you meditating again. You're only not meditating when you're just being carried along. It can seem like against your will in propuncture, on the streams of propuncture, doesn't it? Yeah. As soon as you're feeling like, actually, I'm just in a really bad mood, I'm just, that state. Actually, even though that's very uncomfortable and your instinct is to get away from it by telling stories that are trying to solve it, what you try and do as best as you can is let yourself feel those underlying feelings. They're not actually as dangerous as they feel. You just try to let yourself feel those, and then probably you'll get caught back up into the narrative again, and you just drop beneath the narrative. Yeah, and that can be any narrative that you've got. Let me get on. So, what do I want to say? Okay, so one more thing I want to try to open up. What I'm trying to do so far is this moment of noticing you're gone away. That is you already meditating. See if you can fathom that. The way you don't do that is by having this subconscious self-criticism that you shouldn't have been away and how long have you been away and all that sort of thing. Never mind all that. You're now meditating. You don't need to think about whether you're away. And then see if you've got these driven thoughts and then go underneath that. What else was I going to say? And then the issue, I think, is trying to stay with that more and more. And just sort of, that's what I was going to say. So try to remember that because we've got this sort of materialistic view of life, that we think everything's to do with my brain and my willpower, what you can get into is that I'm only meditating if I'm consciously doing it. Do you see what I mean? If I'm literally in this moment, consciously applying myself to feel it, watching the breath. We'll just watch the breath again. But you can think it only counts if I've got my consciousness and I'm applying it to my breath. If I'm not doing that, I'm not meditating. That can be our view. Because we believe that our self-will, our conscious bit that we know, is us, basically. Yeah? So it's really clear that sort of self-consciousness, that sort of clear consciousness, is only about 7% of consciousness. It's a tiny bit of your consciousness. Like when you think about it, you can make breakfast without thinking about it at all. Open drawers, go get the muesli down, get the yogurt. You can do that whilst listening to a podcast, talking to a friend. You never think about it. So how are you don't think, now I need to get a spoon. Now I need to get a bowl, Most of our life, that's one of the problems with this language of consciousness. It sounds like it's to do with you being hyper-conscious. And you can think that's what meditation is, being hyper-conscious in that kind of extrinsic, kind of hawk-like way. Yeah, like you're just on it, like a hawk, yeah? In fact, meditation can be taught like that, and people can be even quite proud of practicing like that. Yeah, but it will not work. So what you need is to remember that most of what's going on as I meditate, as I notice that my mind's gone off, and as soon as I notice I'm in meditation and I thicken that moment, as I meditate, most of what's going on you will not have direct access to. Yeah? You won't necessarily know that you're going deeper. In fact, you often don't know. Yeah? If you try to think, hang on, how's this going? You're basically shrinking your mind to a tiny bit and saying, how's that bit going? And your answer will be not very good, because you've just made it not very good. Yeah? As soon as you say, hang on, am I any good at this? How's it going? Is it any better now than it was at the start? You're actually leaving the meditation to do when you do that, and thinning your mind, not thickening it. Yeah. So one of the things we need with meditation is a kind of workable faith that what we're doing is having effects, even though you don't necessarily feel it. I mean, you can really tell this if you ever do this at home. I remember this years ago. I'm old enough to remember a phone ringing, and you didn't know who it was. It's like weird. Anybody remember? You know, it's about the steam age. Yeah. It was just after decimal coins, I think. But I remember, you know, a phone would ring and they'd have to actually say who they is. They didn't. And I remember once meditating and thinking, you know, I used to think I'm rubbish at this. I can't do it. The phone rang. I went to pick up the phone, and you suddenly realise you're much deeper than you thought. It's more difficult to speak. You suddenly don't know quite where you are. But literally, the nanosecond before the phone rang, you just thought, I'm just in my everyday consciousness here. There's nothing very special. But if somebody were to come in and say, "Oh, where's the dog's lead?" You know, it would take you a while to go back up to that level. Yeah. But you don't notice it, and if you don't notice it, it's very easy not to discount it. That nothing much has happened. Yeah. So it's very important to remember that your self-conscious attention is only a small part of what's happening here. Yes, you need to work with that, but a lot of what's going on is not your self-conscious attention. And it's weird because on retreat, for instance, I notice that I often don't particularly feel like I've gone much deeper. But what I notice when I read, for instance, on retreat, I read and it has a much stronger effect on me. Even though I'm reading, you know, hours after my meditation, you know how reading can be an event in life. We've forgotten this, that reading can be an event in life. People's lives have changed because of things they've read. And when I'm on retreat, even though sometimes I don't think my meditation's gone that deep, it must have, because when I read, that reading is much deeper and much more satisfying, and I'm not trying to make it so, yeah? So part of it is just keep remembering that this is doing something, even if you don't consciously notice that. If we literally finished the meditation, I turned the lights right up and said, off you go, you would suddenly notice that you're in a deeper place. Yeah? But we don't do that. We're very good with lights and waft out. Okay, that'll probably do. So what I'd suggest we do in a moment is do the mindfulness of breathing, but let's keep it really simple. So either go through the stages as you feel fit, or just do the third stage. But mostly what you're trying to do, and we will meditate for a bit longer, is you're just trying to keep on noticing that your mind has gone, and try to fatten that moment, enrich that moment. Yeah. So setting yourself up so you can sit completely still. And I'll read that poem again at the start and at the end. But I'll just leave it to you, so you know what you need to try and do. You know that it's not mostly to do with your conscious attention. You know that all you need to do really is keep noticing that you're not meditating, and in that moment you're meditating. So let's see if we can deepen and thicken that moment. So when you're ready, closing your eyes. And as soon as you close your eyes, you're just opening up to your physical sense. And your physical sense might be comfortable or uncomfortable. Often we don't feel very much at all, and that's completely fine. Once again, I'll lead us into the meditation. So, first of all, softening your face. Softening the muscles around your eyes. See if you can unpucker your mouth and soften your jaw. And then imagining your shoulders soothing away, smoothing away, dropping down your back. Like you're taking off a tight jacket, and your shoulders can expand away from each other and drop down your back. So your face is soft, your eyes are soft. Your shoulders are dropping down your back. And see if you can soften your belly. And then really allowing or imagining your weight dropping down through the cushions, down through the chair, through the floor, into the ground beneath you. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Mindfulness of breathing. And stay still. And stay still. If you feel uncomfortable, see if you can just relax more. Keep coming back. As soon as you notice your mind's gone off, you're already back. And you can trust that's having a deepening effect. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Okay, so that's all we've got time for tonight. So in a minute when you're ready, there's no rush, put your mats in the corner and your cushions at the side. And then let's just do that in silence and then just talk when we're outside again. Yeah, okay. No rush to it.